Hello and welcome to episode 144 of my podcast all about knitting and crochet and my yarn shop here in Wiesbaden, Germany. I'm Kiko and today is June 6th, 2022. Today I am wearing my Whirlwind shawl. It's knit out of this solid color opal sock yarn, and the other color is a hand-dyed yarn by Drachenwolle. I think she dyes yarn under a different name. I think nowadays she's called Frau Wolldrache, which is close but different. Yeah, but anyway, so I chose those two colors and knit the Whirlwind shawl by Diana Edstrom. And I was one of the people who were allowed to test knit the pattern. And I am pretty sure that this was my very first test knit. And she used similar colors, I think, in her original, which is one of the things that drew me to the pattern. But the other thing is that I really liked the shape of the shawl. So it's not a proper triangle, but it has this rounded shape on top of the shawl, and it has these the ends sort of they're like little spirals, and because of this rounded shape, it really sits on the shoulders very nicely. And it changes between bits in one color and bits in the other color, and then in between there are two color patterns, and I think it was 4 different patterns that keep repeating. You start off with a few stitches in one color, then you add the second color, then you just knit the second color, and you have the second pattern, and then you start again, and then you keep increasing your stitch count, and then at the end, I think, if I remember correctly, this bit should have been a bit wider, but I was running out of yarn. I did have another skein, but I knit a pullover with that later on. So which I ended up knitting in 3 different colors. So I would have had more yarn for the shawl, but when I knit the shawl, I thought I was going to knit the pullover in just the one color, so I didn't want to use up too much on the shawl. And the size is really nice, so it didn't have to be bigger for me, and I really, really like it. I love the shape. I've always wanted to make another one, so maybe one of these days I'll cast on another Whirlwind shawl. And while I'm standing, I can show off my pullover. This is a pure cotton, very simple pullover. It's a pattern by Wolldackel, the yarn shop I used to work for. It was in one of their brochures, and I sort of knit it as a shop sample, but most of the samples that we knit, we put in the window display. So, and if we did that, we had to not only stick to the pattern, but also to the color of the model in the brochure. So, we couldn't change that. We could only decide which size to knit. But if it didn't have to be in the window display, then if it was just displayed in the shop, then we could change the color. So this pullover in the original was red, which was also a very nice color, but I just love turquoise, pale blue, so I wanted to knit this color. This was the yarn's called Millefili. You can still get that in Idee Kreativ shops, or I think Rico even sells internationally, so I think you can get that kind of cotton in lots of places, but it's basically the same as the Catania by Schachenmeier. It's just a different company. And it's a fairly simple pullover. There's a few increases in the sleeve, but the front and back are just straight. The neckline's just straight. Quite simple, but like the lace pattern, it's light and airy, and I really, really like this pullover. Yeah, so that's what I'm wearing today. Oops. Yeah. And even if I just wear it like this, because of this shape, it'll just stay. It won't slide off. And I really like the way these ends look. Yeah. But also if you pull it round the way I had it at the beginning of the episode, I really like that too. Okay, then on to finished objects. I have 2 finished objects, and I actually didn't cast anything on last week, quite surprisingly. So I think the socks are the older project, and I tend to start with socks. So I finally turned the cat socks into cat socks. I'd finished the socks themselves, I think 2 weeks ago, and now I finally got round to embroidering the faces. So I can either show it like this, and you'll have a little face, or I can just pull them round the sock blocker. So yeah, the ears and the nose are fairly easy to embroider because I just follow the stitches. I don't mind doing that, but all these freestyle embroidery, like the mouth and the hairs, I'm not really good at. So they're a bit wonky, but I think it's okay. You can recognize it's a cat. And the eyes are light blue. They do come off, they almost look like white, but they're light blue. And that's because one of my sister's cats has blue eyes. And so I thought, and I used different color, I did different color eyes for all the cat socks. So this is cat sock number 3. And the first 2 had, one had green eyes, the other had yellow eyes. And now this cat has blue eyes. So that's cat socks number 3 finished. And I will stop knitting them now. If my sister and my nephew's girlfriend want cat socks, they have to knit them themselves. I will help with the embroidery, I said, if they don't want to do that themselves. But I think they can knit the socks themselves. So if they ever do knit the socks and want my help with the embroidery, I will show them to you. And if not, then I won't. Okay, so that's finished object number 1. And number 2 is my little loop cowl thingy that I knit in the same color as my Raglano pullover. But for the pullover, I use the 6-ply, and this is the 4-ply opal rainforest color. And the pattern is by Bernd Kessler out of his book Knit and Pearl Stitches. I don't think it's out in English. I think you can only get it in German. As far as I know, it was first published in German. I don't even know if there's a Japanese version, but as far as I know, there's no English version. And his cowl has only got these points at one end of the cowl, but I decided to put them in both ends. So once I fold this down, I have points both ends of the cowl, and I did knit them offset, so this should be in. But it's funny, if I fold it down, they always sort of seem to sit on top of each other, but they're supposed to sit in between each other. So something like this. I haven't washed or blocked it yet, so I will wash it and then I will gently block it and try to get the points to be a bit more pronounced. So I'll just pull it lengthwise a little bit, and then we'll see if that makes a difference. I probably won't be wearing the pullover plus the cowl anytime soon because the pullover is really warm and we're going into the warm weather season now. But as soon as it gets colder, I'll try and remember to wear the pullover and the cowl together to show you. Yeah, so that's a second finished object for today. Then on to works in progress, and I knit on most of the things that I have in progress at the moment, except for a few that are sort of languishing, plus the crochet dinosaur blanket. I didn't get around to crocheting that, but this will be my first priority today to make sure I'll get some rows into the blanket. But for the things that I did knit on, I start with the socks as usual. And the oldest socks on my needle now are the vanilla socks out of another 6-ply rainforest opal yarn. So that color is one of the rainforest colors, and I knit them just as tubes with an afterthought heel. So I finished the first afterthought heel, and for the second sock I started the heel, but I didn't get round to finishing it. So I had different toes for the two socks, but I decided to do both heels in black. Quite like that the needles in the proper size are yellow, so that looks rather funny. And I thought, just in case you haven't seen or you don't know how an afterthought heel is made, this is what it looks like. So I counted the rows that I need for my foot, so I knew where to put the heel, and then I snipped the yarn and undid the stitches, enough stitches for me to knit the heel. This is the yarn that I snipped. So I tried to sort of do it in the middle of where I wanted the heels, not quite the middle. I can weave in those two ends, and yeah, and now I'm just using the black yarn, and I'm sort of knitting another toe. So if you look at the heel like this, oops, it sort of looks like a toe. So if you look like this, it looks like two different toes. So this is my favorite toe that I like to knit for the toe, and I think this is a bit too. I think for a proper toe, I would probably change the rate of decreases at the end of the toe. But for a heel, this looks okay. And what's most important, it fits me. So that's the thing. And yeah, so I've picked up the stitches. I started the first few rounds of the afterthought heel, and that should be finished fairly quickly. On my Ravelry page, I will put pictures of how I put the tubes on my feet, because that's what you can do. You can just knit tubes and put them on your feet. They won't fit quite as nicely, but you can wear them. So I took a picture of that, and then I took a picture of one finished sock and one tube sock. And once this is done, I'll add the picture of both socks finished and on my feet. So that's the first sock. First pair of socks I wanted to show you today. Then the next pair are the Plaid Pocket socks number 2. So this is one of the Sock Madness patterns of this year, and I finished the pair that I knit during the competition, but decided to start another pair for myself. So I'm using a rather colorful yarn, and I'm not knitting to the minimum requirement, but I'm just knitting my size. So this is the pocket, and as you can see, the first sock is done. No pocket on this side. Really like the way the orange and the green are both in the cuff, the heel and the toe, and also a bit on the pocket. I've started the second sock, but only just, and already you can see that that it's different. So yeah, I'm really curious to see which colors will be in the cuff, in the pocket, the heel and the toe for the second sock. Yeah, so really looking forward to doing that, but I may put them on hold for a bit, but I'll let you know in a minute. About Sock Madness. Sock Madness is over. The last round, the pattern for the last round came out yesterday morning, and I think all 3 finalists, all 3 winners finished within a day. So yesterday the Sock Madness was over, and the winner of the whole Sock Madness 2022 is from Team Wagner. So she was in my team. Really, really proud to be in the team with this year's winner. And her name is Eva, and we're all very proud of her, and she did a really good job. And the pattern is so funny. It's called No Problema, and I'm very tempted to knit the socks at some point. So I think at some point I'll show you the pattern and my version of them. Yeah, so the next socks that I'm knitting on are those 10-gram mini socks. I knit 3 of those during my holiday just to see how much sock can I get out of one 10-gram mini. And I forgot to show you the minis back then, so I just brought a few today. With these two, it actually says that the colors are out of the Beauty series, but with most minis, all you get is a plain and simple ball band saying opal, 10 gram, 42 meters, and you don't know where the color came from, which series the color came from. But they're really fun. So this is that was the first sock that I knit. This is what I have left after knitting this much of the second sock. So this is going to be the second sock to this one. So in the end, I want to have 3 pairs that I can either give as gifts or maybe sell or keep them in the shop. We'll see. Yeah, so I did half a heel. I think I probably finished just half the heel, and that's another sock in progress. And the last pair of socks that I have on the needle right now are the Unbearably Adorable socks. That's the Sock Madness round 5 pattern this year. I'm using this hand-dyed opal yarn that I got in my December subscription parcel, and the Unbearably Adorable socks are knit toe up, and I'm knitting them 2 at a time. I knit them 2 at a time till now. I'm probably going to change that from here on. I'll explain why in a moment. So I have those 2 hearts on the side of the foot. Then I finish knitting the foot, and when I first looked at the pattern, because I wasn't in the competition anymore, I thought I'll just put in the Fish Lips Kiss heel, which is my favorite heel, and I wouldn't have to read the pattern, could just knit what I'm used to knitting. But then I looked at the pattern and I realized that the heel is actually really interesting, because what you do is you knit sort of a heel flap on the bottom of the sole of the foot. So the last bit of the sole is like a heel flap, and it has these slip stitches to make it a bit thicker. And then you sort of turn the heel, and you keep doing the slip stitch pattern. And then with the decreases, you keep knitting the slip stitch pattern. So you have this kind of diamond on the back of the heel, where you still have those slip stitches. And then once you finish the decreases, you go back to just knitting plain stockinette. And I thought that's really interesting, because usually this thicker bit is just on the back of the heel. And that's usually not where I get the holes in my socks. I usually get them down here where I stand on or walk on. And I really like the fact that this is a bit thicker. And I can imagine that it's really nice walking on this. I'll tell you as soon as the socks are done, I can wear them. Yeah, but I thought that looks really interesting, and it's something different, and I wanted to try this out. So that's why I actually knit the heel the way it's written in the pattern. And now that I finished the decreases, I added, I think, another 2 rounds. And now the proper pattern for these socks that make them Sock Madness worthy starts, and that's a pattern with stacked stitches and 2 different colors. With the stacked stitches, you don't have to knit both colors at the same time, but you knit 1 color at a time, but you do so many increases and decreases that once you use the second color and you finish the pattern, the second color will go up and down, even though it was all knit at the same time. It's really weird and confusing, but I'm really looking forward to doing that. And my contrast color is supposed to be white, and I also use white in these socks, and that's why I was saying I might put them on hold so I can use the white yarn for these socks. I think that looks really nice together, and I don't want to start another white ball of yarn because I still have so much of this one. I think I already used it for the other Plaid Pocket socks, or maybe I had a different ball and I had to start a new one, and that's why it's still so big. But that's why I don't want to start another one, and so I might just use the white to knit the pattern in the socks and then go back to the Plaid Pocket socks. From what I've read about the stacked stitches, it's quite fiddly, and I probably don't want to be doing both socks at the same time. One of the reasons I'm using magic loop, apart from being able to knit both at the same time, is that I read that if you knit magic loop and just put one pattern repeat of stitches on your needle and keep the rest on the cable, it makes the knitting a bit easier. I also read that you can put, if you knit on double points, you can use one double pointed needle for every pattern repeat to make it a bit easier. But I thought, as I'm knitting a magic loop anyway, I will try this just one pattern repeat of stitches on the needle, but I'm not even sure how many stitches I have for the pattern repeat, so it might be like few stitches from both sides, and then it wouldn't work with 2 at a time. So I will just put one sock on hold, and I will knit the pattern on one sock and then knit the pattern on the other sock. In the pattern you do 5 repeats. I'm not too sure I need to have 5. Maybe I'll just do 3. I don't think I'll just do 1, but if it's too fiddly and too much work, I might even just do 1, but we'll see about that. I'm really looking forward to trying this out, so I'm pretty sure I'll start the pattern this week, and then next week I can tell you more about how complicated it is and what it looks like and all about that. Yeah, so that's it about socks. Then the next sock yarn project I'm working on is the little baby jacket it is Stephanie Lochvin, out of her book Knit Happy with Self-Striping Yarn. And I had already finished one side piece, one front and one sleeve. And I was working on the second side piece, and I told you I could continue knitting because I misplaced my book and I couldn't find it, and I need the pattern for the short rows in the shoulder. And as you can see, I continued knitting. It does not mean I found my book. Unfortunately, I still don't know where it is, but as I just have the best customers ever, one of them heard about me missing my book, and she said she has the book as well, and she just came and lent it to me. So that's very sweet of her, and now I can continue knitting the little baby cardigan using my customer's book. Yeah, so this is the second side piece and the second sleeve, and as you can see, very different. That's what I was going for. So the sleeves are completely different, and the side pieces are quite different. And I'm pretty sure when I finish the sleeve and start the second front, it will probably be different from the first. Yeah, and once I've knit the second front, I will knit the 2 backs. They will be knit together. I think they're being bound off together. And then all I need to do are the collar, the ribbing on the collar and the ribbing at the bottom of fronts and backs. Yeah, but I'm quite happy that I can continue knitting, especially as this is part of the pattern battle, the so-called pattern battle. That's one of the Opal Abo, the subscription colors, and with every parcel, one color is chosen, and everybody knits the same color but with a different pattern. And the color for the last parcel was just chosen, and so it means I have to start a new project, so I better finish that quickly. Yeah, so that's the little jacket I'm knitting. And then for my jacket, my size jacket, when I was writing down my projects, I realized that I called the project Wolldackel Neon Jacket. Wolldackel is the hand dyer who dyed the mini skeins that I will put in the collar on the front of the jacket. But so far, all I've done is knit black yarn by Hansa Farm. So it's a bit confusing. But I knit enough front and back that I decided it's enough now, and I haven't finished yet, but I've started the ribbing. I think you can see just a few rows of ribbing that I've started. The pattern calls for 5 centimeters of ribbing. I might even do a few more, I'm not sure yet. As usual, I'll just knit and try it on and see what it looks like. But I do want the jacket to be a little bit longer, not extremely long, but just a little longer, just to keep me a bit warmer and to give me a lot of colourful collar as soon as I get to that. So yeah, it'd be nice if I finished the ribbing this week, but no promises. And the other sock yarn project that I'm knitting for myself, that's not socks, is going to be the gnome pullover by Sarah Shearer, Go Big or Go Gnome Pullover. That was the first sleeve. This is the second sleeve, so I've added a bit of length in the second sleeve, but then I forgot how many increases I'd done on the first sleeve, so I didn't dare continue knitting this weekend, focus on other projects instead. But as you can see, still a bit missing, and I think I counted 4 more increases that I have to do. And as soon as the sleeve is done, I will start with the front and back because they haven't been knit yet. So that's that pullover. Then I started this cotton top I showed you last week, where I'm knitting those 4 colors of Catania yarn, pure cotton by Schachenmeier, and I am knitting the 4 colors in helix knitting, and I've added quite a few rounds, I think. So I started by knitting 4 rows in 1 row in every color, and then I closed it to knit in the round, and now I'm doing the helix knitting. This is where I change colors at the moment, so there's no beginning or end of round. I'm not crossing any yarns or anything, and I have put in markers, as you can see. So I put a marker. I basically divided my knitting into 4 equal parts. So 2 of the markers will be the sides and 2 of the markers will be front and back. And I decided that before I split for the fronts and for the armhole, I want to already add a bit of ribbing, so I don't have to add like a ribbing afterwards, because I want to use 1 color for each of the front and back pieces. I don't want to knit to add anything to it afterwards. I hope that makes sense. Yeah, but anyway, this is what it looks like. It's the 4 colors, 1 round every color, helix knitting, and I will probably have to do the same amount again to have it long enough and to reach the underarm, and then you will see how I will place the colors. I will see that too. I'm really excited to see how that works out. I just realized I forgot to write down one project. I'll just add that now, and that's the vortex shawl that I'm working on the edging. So this is very thin cotton yarn that my sister brought from Japan many years ago. And then I started knitting the vortex shawl 9 years ago. Beautiful free pattern on Ravelry. And then I think about 6 years ago, I decided to knit a knitted on edging, and I provisionally cast on some stitches and started knitting this knit on border. And while I knit this border, I cast off stitches, and oh dear, and I've just continued knitting a little bit. It's really difficult to show, and you probably won't be able to tell that I have added something, but I calculated that if I knit 6 pattern repeats every week, I should get this done by the end of July or beginning of August, and that'd be great. So I could wear it in August and maybe even September, and I could still wear it this year. That'd be fantastic. 1 pattern repeat is one of those little triangles. So I increase stitches and then I decrease stitches so that these are 16 rows, but eight of these little beads. So this is another pattern repeat, and this is another pattern repeat. Yeah, so yeah, I think it's quite clear what I'm trying to do. So I thought if I do 6 pattern repeats a week, that's almost 1 pattern repeat every day. I can take 1 day off, and I thought that's something that I should be able to do. And last week it worked, and we'll see how next week will be. So that's that. Then I have one crochet project that I actually worked on. As I said, I did not work on the dinosaur blanket Stomp, but I finished 2 more of those squares. So I had started the last 7 pieces all at once. With those 5, I finished all the sort of contrasting colors, and they all just need 2 more rounds in either white or dark blue. And with those 2 I managed, and these I still have to add. By the way, I crocheted 15, or I will have 15 squares when I'm done, 3 squares wide and 5 squares long. And I used 1 50-gram ball of yarn for those 3 colors, and this is all the yarn that I have left. And it's quite interesting that I have different amounts left. It probably has to do that one color is the second and the second to last in these, and then the other color. I should have thought that this color and that color should have probably been the same amount, but the third color, that's always the third color in all the pieces, I thought would have used less yarn, maybe, I don't know. Anyway, oops. So this is what I have left of the 3 50-gram balls in these colors, and then with the white and the dark blue, with the dark blue I have already started on the second. Oh no, I haven't. I'm still working with the first 50-gram ball, but there won't be enough to finish all the pieces. So I already got a second of those 2 colors. Yeah, so I hope to finally finish those rounds this week, and then we'll see when I get to sewing them together. So that's that. And then the last project for today is my memories blanket. It's called All Projects Memory Blanket, because my plan is that for every project that I finish with sock yarn, I want to put 1 square into this blanket. So this blanket is not only opal yarn like the other blanket I have, but I'm using all the sock yarn that I'm actually using for projects I want to put into the blanket. And if I use the same color for several projects, then it will appear in the blanket several times, otherwise just once for every project. And by the way, these are the 3 colors that I used for the for a fade pullover. It's not a fading pattern, but it's anyway. But this color is the same color that I used in the shawl. But I did not put a square into the blanket for the shawl because I'd already finished that a long time before I started the blanket. Yeah, and the new squares that I added, so these 4 were the last ones I showed you. This is the star cushion that I knit for the tutorial video on how to knit a star cushion. That was that yarn. And then these 2 yarns I used for the shorty socks with the crochet heel flap. So that's the color I used for the crochet heel flap and the toe. And this is the Black Dragon yarn by Opal that I used for the main part of the sock. And so I need another 2 squares to finish this side off, but I've already added 1 square on this side as well. And that's the yarn I used for my sister's star cushion, and she wanted to have the leftover yarn from the cushion for her blanket that she's knitting to give away. But as I had 11 grams left, she said she didn't need that much, and told me it was fine to knit one of those squares. So I knit that square. So I have a memory of her star cushion in my blanket, and she can now use the rest to put into her blanket. Yeah, so these are the new squares in my memories blanket, and that's everything. We're not doing a knit along at the moment because I will officially kick off the next knit along as soon as I've done the sock knitting tutorial video, but so far I haven't got round to doing that. Yeah, so that's everything for today. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!